Hey everybody, this is Adam with Friendly Neighborhood Firearms on a quick clean of your AR-15. So I first want to just go over the things that you might need. Primarily I like to have this tech mat that I keep down on my table. It's just a rubberized neoprene. It keeps a soft surface that doesn't slide around and it doesn't stain or mess up your parts or your table. It has this list and this exploded view of your rifle that can also help kind of keep track of all the parts and pieces and what everything is as you go along the way. You're going to need a rag or a towel. My favorite thing to use is a cut up piece of an old t-shirt. So just I cut up some squares of old shirts that I'm not wearing anymore and use those. And this ballistol is my personal favorite cleaner and lubricant. You can use it on all kinds of stuff for your car and everything else, but that's what I use. You can also use these Remington oil wipes or any other gun oil wipes, or just your favorite cleaner that you can pick up that you prefer. You're going to want a bore snake. This is the one I use. I think it was about $13. It's just one that has a weighted end on one side that'll feed through your barrel, and then it'll go through and it'll just pull all the gunk out. It has some bristles that you can kind of see here that are like metal bristles in there that also help kind of catch everything on its way out. So you'll need that, and then I like to use a pen, but you'll just need something pointy for one part. This is a little keychain pin that I had, but a pen works just great. And then a couple little brushes. These are just brushes that my wife had. They're eyelash brushes that she uses. You can pick them up at a makeup store in the mall for free. She buys them on Amazon. You can get hundreds and hundreds of them for less than $10. So once you're ready to go, have your rifle there. The first thing to check is just make sure that you don't have a magazine in it and that it isn't loaded, that the chamber's empty. So you can just do a physical and visual check, make sure that there's not a round in the chamber, and we should be ready to go. So if you notice, you'll just need to push out your takedown pin and your pivot pin to separate the two halves. So if you flip your gun around, your takedown pin you can push in, your pivot pin you should be able to push in, and then from the other side just pull those pins out until they catch, and you can separate your upper receiver from your lower receiver. And it's pretty easy. For your lower, there's not a lot that you're going to need to clean. You can see I kind of just try and make sure there's not too much gunk on the face of the buffer spring and the face of the trigger that will wipe off a little bit later can get a bit dirty, but for the most part, for now, you should be able to just set that aside. We're really going to just focus on the upper assembly. So you should be able to just take your upper now, and we're just going to take the charging handle, bolt carrier group out. So if you pull back on that charging handle, you should be able to just take your bolt carrier group and slide that right back out of the upper and set that aside for now. And then your charging handle, you're going to slide back and it will catch a little bit. You just need to tip that down until it falls out of a couple grooves that are in there. You can see where those grooves will catch in your upper that we'll talk about later. So from here, I like to clean the upper of the barrel first and kind of have that cleaned out and ready and set aside. So you can take that, and I'm not going to make you watch me wipe down everything, so you'll see we speed up through a lot of this, but just get your lubricant and spray it inside where all the moving pieces are going to go. Get some down in the barrel, and then you're just going to be able to get in there and wipe everything down as you've been spraying it off. Just feed it in, and this is where you can start using any of those brushes. Make sure you've got enough spray down inside the barrel, and then you can grab your bore snake, put that weighted end through the chamber, and just let it feed down through your barrel until it falls out, and then just pull the whole thing through. I like to do this at least 3, maybe 4 times so you can get a little more cleaner in there and then feed it through again. It is important to note that I always only feed it through one direction. The same way the bullets are going to go out. I don't feed it back through the opposite way at any time. That can kind of scratch up the inside of your barrel and mess up the rifling a little bit. So just always in the same direction that your bullets are going to leave the gun. So pull that through a couple times, and then this is where I grab those brushes. These little eyelash brushes seem to work pretty good at getting in a lot of these extra little grooves and corners where I can just get in and kind of scrub everything out. This other makeup brush I tried to get in a couple places that we had around, but it didn't work as well as I'd like. You can also, I had a screwdriver with tape over the end of it that I wrapped the cloth around just to push in a couple places and make sure it's getting corners and everything cleaned out nice. And that should be about it for the barrel. You can set the rest aside and then move on to your charging handle. And there can be some grease in that groove, but for this quick cleaning I like to just kind of make sure I've wiped everything down, scrubbed out little places as it needs it. If you don't have grease down in there, if you do have grease in there, you can probably leave that alone. And then your bolt carrier group. This has a couple pieces inside of it that I like to pull apart. The first part of it is this firing pin retaining pin. You can see that it's kind of just stuck down in there. So if you push with something pointy on the one end of it, as I'm just doing with a pen here, it doesn't take a lot of force. You can get that pin to where you can pull it out. That pin, you do want to be careful that you don't bend it or that you don't lose it. So when you set it aside, put it somewhere where you're going to be able to keep it and not have it get lost, or you're going to be in trouble. Then you can just let the firing pin kind of drop out. You can see that one's fairly dirty. And then your bolt has this cam on the end of it that you just need to rotate 90 degrees. You rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and you should be able to pull that cam pin straight out. And then your bolt should pull right back out of the whole thing. That's as much as I do on the bolt carrier group for these cleanings. You can get into more for detailed cleanings, but for now this is enough to be able to get in and just take each piece, and I just spray it off in the cloth I have and just make sure I wipe any of the gunk off of it. Again, you can see I use that brush to get in some of the corners of things and try and make sure it's as cleaned out as I can get it. And just apply your cleaner and brush and scrub any of that carbon or gunk off any of the corners and everywhere that you can reach. And then you can get inside that gas tube and push your cleaning cloth through all the little holes and everything here, just to feed through and make sure everything's nice and scrubbed out from inside and out. So once you have that done, we just need to be able to put everything back together. And this is part where it is worth noting that your cam pin can only go into your bolt through one side. So I just check, make sure you'll see it can go in one side and it will not fit in the other side of that bolt. So the hole that it does fit into, I want pointing up so that it lines up with this hole in the rest of the bolt carrier group. So once you push that bolt back in, you can see that hole line up, and then your cam pin should be able to drop in down into that hole and horizontally, and then you're going to rotate it again 90 degrees so that it holds everything in place. And then your bolt should be set from there, and you can then put your firing pin back in, and that pin is just going to sit right down through the middle of that bolt. So pin side in, and you can just drop that. It should drop all the way down in pretty easily, and once that's in place, you can take your firing pin, retaining pin, and that part can have, there's one side where just the end of the pin sticks through, and one side that holds the head of the pin, this bigger hole. So you want to just make sure that you're putting it in the right way, and you can kind of just pinch the end of the pin together with your fingers. It shouldn't be too tough, and feed it right through that hole. This part I like to be a little bit careful that you're not feeding it, pushing it too hard, or if it's not lining up just right, that you're not trying to force it. You don't want to bend that pin. It should, once it's lined up with the hole on the other side, it should kind of just snap into place pretty easily. And then hold everything in and fit nice and flush there. From there you can see that your bolt holds in place, your firing pin isn't going to slide back out, and that's it. That should be all of your bolt carrier group put back together nice and clean. So once you're ready to put everything back together, you can have your charging handle, and then this is where those grooves need to come back into place. So those grooves, I tried to show here, once you feed the charging handle back inside the rest of the upper, you're going to want to line those grooves up inside until it drops into place, and you'll feel it and be able to see it kind of just drop right into where it needs to go, so that it holds in place and can slide back and forth fairly easily. Once that's in a good bit of the way, you're going to have that gas block facing forward, your bolt facing forward, and then that bolt you're going to want to make sure is pulled out, is extended out all of the way before you try and slide it in. If you have the bolt in, it's going to kind of just jam and get stuck in the middle there. It's not going to feed in all the way. So have that out, and then that gas block is going to slide right inside the groove of the charging handle, and everything should be able to just slide back in home pretty easily from there. And that's it on your upper. You can go through and make sure everything's wiped down, but then just get your lower. And because I had a little bit of gunk on the inside of my lower, I just spray a piece of my cloth and just kind of wipe through what I can see inside of here. The face of the hammer, just wipe down and make sure where pieces kind of connect together don't have any extra dirt or carbon buildup or anything in there. And that's it on the lower for these quick cleans that I do. And then your upper has this hinge that's going to sit back inside of your pivot pin. I like to do one side first, so I put the pivot pin in place and then snap that pin back in so everything can hinge there, and then the rest should be able to just kind of fall back into place where it needs to go. Push in that takedown pin and make sure that everything's seated back where it needs to be, and that's it. Your gun should be clean and ready to go for the next time you